Today on SaaSy AF, we're joined by comedian, author, podcaster, and all-round force of nature, Grace Campbell. You've seen her stand-up, read her brutally honest book, Amazing Disgrace, and maybe heard of her hit podcast, Late to the Party, which I must say I have laughed at multiple times. She is the daughter of one of our previous guests, filmed at DTS, Alastair Campbell, who I must say, Grace, the first time that he met me, he didn't even get a hello. He looked at me up and down, shook his head and said tattoos. And that's all I got. And not even a hello.
He's so ridiculous. Because now I've got loads of tattoos, so now he's had to change his tune. That will have been...
Well, this was only a couple of months ago, so he must still have that underlying grudge.
Wow, he's such a weird person. I'm so sorry.
First question I have, Grace, is I've obviously been lucky enough to have you and previously Alastair. Is the next logical step not Tony Blair, not Rory Stewart, but the real boss, your mum?
Yeah, yes, 100%, because she is like secret weapon behind both of us. Everybody says that. She's definitely the reason why I'm so normal. Well, I don't know.
None of us are normal, Grace.
I don't think anyone would class me as normal, but she's definitely the reason why I'm not
She indirectly gave me a nice reprieve whenever we were talking to Alastair, because she kept him on the phone for like 15 minutes. That was just a nice break for me in between the hour that we spent in the sort of the preamble before the fireside. So she did me a solid without even knowing. But enough about him, and let's get down to you. Your take on things are so unvarnished and like straight and brutal, and you get to the point. What I try to focus on here is pulling apart the bullshit culture, the manosphere being very externally dangerous. I've always thought of comedy as punching up, and with the manosphere, it seems that it's very much punching down on those that are, not in power, which to me it's both not funny, and I just don't consider it comedy. But I'd love to get your take on that.
The internet is amazing and also ridiculous at the same time, and unfortunately we haven't been properly equipped with the ability to take it all with a pinch of salt. I know people who are like in my parents' generation who find it really oppressive, and it makes them feel shit about themselves and what they might not have or might not be doing. So we have to learn with the internet how to somehow separate ourselves from this, like, I've got this, following someone who's got like an amazing body, a perfect life, looks like they're in top tier health, and like you said, get up at 4 a.m. and drink matcha and whatever. You meet those people and then you'll be like, oh, they're really deeply unhappy. And we need to learn how to see those things without it being a personal reflection or attack on us. And that's something that I struggle with all the time, but definitely like my podcast being about parties, I like that because it's like, that's a thing that we're like...
It's real.
Totally. And in this like sanitized culture, we're not allowed to talk about like the mistakes that we make and going out too late and self-sabotaging sometimes, which we all do at points in our lives. And then in terms of the manosphere and incel culture, it's really hard. There's so much that I want to say and like can say about that. And I think ultimately that sect of the internet has only found me because I found it because I want to write comedy about it. The thing that worries me is how few people see it, like how few people see actually how toxic some parts of the internet are, and there's new versions of Andrew Tate now. There's American versions of Andrew Tate. There's now new versions of him popping up. So it's not actually Andrew Tate isn't the problem, it's the fact that there is an appetite for men telling young boys to be a certain way, and that's happening because of this like breakdown of gender structure and gender roles in our society. So I don't think are punching up or punching down. They're kind of punching themselves in the face because they look like idiots most of the time. But it is a great source of comedy. To come back to like what that question, it's a great source of comedy, but it's also terrifying. And whenever I talk on the internet about it, I get like the most insane amount of death threats. Someone said to me yesterday, do you ever get trolled? And I was like, well, I get trolled, all the time because of who my dad is. But the scariest trolling I've ever had is when I've spoken about Andrew Tate. That was like severe self. I wouldn't even if I could.
I don't know. It's such a, and with the government introducing obviously the Online Protection Act, like it's hard to feel which way is right with that, because there's certain things that you're allowed to say and certain things you're not allowed to say. But the principle of making the online realm safe for people is, it's obviously a good principle, but with VPNs, people can get around it so much. So it's,
what is interesting, I don't know if you followed this story about this website called Tattle.
nope.
It's like a forum where there's threads of people talking about influencers mainly. A few months ago, the owner of Tattle was exposed, and he was this like man who'd set up this website where women just sort of pile on each other in a very toxic way. There's a sort of campaign for all of the people who have been writing on this website to have their identities exposed, because why should you be allowed to talk like in horrific ways about people on the internet? Freedom of speech, fine, but you can't be able to say these things under a pseudonym with, you know, a profile picture that isn't you. The reason I use this Tattle thing as an example is when the threat of these people's identities being exposed happen, they've all stopped speaking.
Yep. Yep.
Like, I think we should be allowed to call people out on the internet if we disagree with them. We should be allowed to have healthy debate. It's the ability to have complete anonymity and then be sort of telling someone to kill themselves that, you know, that's not normal. Like, it shouldn't be allowed. And this is why the internet is like the wild, wild west, because it's so lawless.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Whenever I was talking to your dad, I had specifically a red button question, because I knew how passionate your father is on political subjects, and we were obviously talking at a tech event, so I wanted an ability to sort of hit a red button. What I had chosen was, did he sign off on Tony Blair's Christmas cards? And obviously the meme that floated around for a time of Tony Blair looking like he wanted to batter somebody in a bar. Did you approve Tony Blair's Christmas card? For anybody that doesn't know this reference, Google Tony Blair Christmas card, and it might be the funniest thing you ever see.
Well, hold on a minute. Hold on. You Google Tony Blair Christmas cards when Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And then Google Tony Blair Christmas cards after leaving.
Yeah. Have you ever had to have a red button with him? Like a okay, we need to take this down to more of a chill conversation.
Oh no, I never do that. I walk into the argument. That is not my strong suit.
No, that's completely fair.
I've never been very good at saying, right, let's just agree. No, I agree to disagree. Yeah, I mean, I think with him, what's been good and like, I guess, interesting about like me growing up and forming my own opinions and stuff is that most of the time he's like open to having conversations about these things. And so we do have like interesting conversations about it. Sometimes he thinks he just knows what's right and so won't talk about it or will shut down a conversation. But, you know, sometimes he's been really open to talking about things, especially like, for example, you know, the whole conversation about like transgender rights, and I guess like the whole like toilet conversation that's going on a lot in the UK. Me and him have had so many conversations about this because I've had to sort of really bring him up to speed about like what is right and wrong, and he's taken all of that on board and then has this platform which is his podcast where he goes and then talks about it. So I'm very happy that I've been able to have an influence on him with some of these things.
That's amazing to hear, especially you mentioning the contrast in views and evolution of views, because what we tend to find is we're basically a reflection a lot of the time of our parents in lots of ways. But the difference there, it just goes to show how good of a job your mother's done.
Well, also, I think it's so interesting. It's like I get so much shit on the internet because of my dad, and I totally get that in some ways because you like, I don't know, you know, whatever. But it's like, I also am 31 years old and am pretty smart and have free will and have formed my own opinions. And I find it so reductive that people just assume that I'm like a mouthpiece for my dad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. So that actually brings me on to something that I wanted to touch on, because you couldn't be further away. Although politics can be comical at some points, it's not intentionally comical, whereas you go out and have the intention of finding comedic value and actually making jokes and producing something, whereas politicians make dicks out of themselves all of the time. Like if you remember back to the tractor porn situation, like
Yeah.
that was inherently funny, but the MP wasn't intentionally doing that. So you've had to carve out, and you have done it incredibly well, your own space. But there's obviously been some sort of influence on that? Has it been a rebellious influence, or has it been in order to get your comedy to where it is, whether it's the Fringe Festival, whether it's on your podcast, what impact has that actually had, growing up in a household with a notable person?
I definitely had an intention of being different, like making it clear that I'm different, like to my dad and to politics. There was no element of rebellion to it because I it takes a lot for me to shock my parents, really. Like I've always been very kind of irreverent in the way that I speak about things. It's since I was young. I could tell that people found it funny. Even as a child, I used to just swear as like a 3-year-old, and it would be like, when you see those videos now on TikTok of like a kid swearing, and then their parents are like, I used to do that all the time to shock people, to make people laugh, because I could see that there was like comedy in a child saying really rude words. Um, so it wasn't really rebellion. It was just like, honestly, when I started doing stand up, I was like, I wrote stand up based on what my friends found funny. So I'd be like, what is it about me that my friends find funny? How do I mine that into jokes and also a persona that I then, sort of unconsciously created on stage? Um, so that's kind of where it came from. I think like at the start, I wanted to make it clear that I wasn't, like I said, a sort of mouthpiece for New Labour. My first show at the Edinburgh Fringe was called Why I'm Not Going Into Politics. And I knew that would get a lot of attention because it's like, the top line of that is, well, Alice Campbell's daughter's talking about why she's not going into politics. It got loads of bums on seats. And then the show ended up mainly just being about my sex life. And I was just like, just gonna get people here. And loads of people loved it and loads of people hated it. But I was like, well, I've gotten people now aware of me and the fact that I'm not actually going to be a political satirist. I'm going to
Yeah,
be like a comedian for the girls and the gays.
yeah,
And
I love
then
that.
that's kind of the path that I've been on, really. And I talk about politics in my own ways sometimes, but I I don't know. I don't want people to think that I have like political answers on anything, because I don't.
Yeah,
The world is just so unbelievably like scary and fucked at the moment
yeah.
that, yeah.
I think on that point, let's go to a bit lighthearted and a bit of a fun conversation. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I don't love an afters. I absolutely do. I actually think that it's my favorite part of the night. I think I've aged out of going out. I've found myself being the guy that's been like, could we reduce this, like the sound by like 15 or 20%? It'd be perfect in here. But the afters, whenever you can actually sit and have a conversation, and like
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So I'm going to give you 5 people, dead or alive. Who are you picking as your 5 guests?
I'm gonna have to say Princess Diana, just because like she sort of is my Roman Empire in a weird
Yep.
way. Like I think about her a lot, and I'm obsessed with this new guy on TikTok called, oh, I've forgotten his name, and he does like Princess Diana if she was Jamaican, and it's like unbelievable. Like, but so Princess Diana would be interesting, and then I think her being at the afters would make everybody else like, oh my God, Princess
Yep.
Diana's here. Rihanna, I would love to hang out with Rihanna. I love her. She's just an icon to me. She's so cool. Would love to get high with her.
Yeah.
Um, so Princess Diana and Rihanna, that rhymes. Conan O'Brien,
Good
I
one.
love him so much. Yeah, he's
Good second last name, or good last name as well.
yeah, well, he loves to talk about his Irish heritage. He is so funny. I think he's one of the funniest people that's ever lived, and so much of like his work inspires me. So I'd say, yeah, Conan O'Brien. I love Bad Bunny, so I'm just gonna say him
Perfect.
because he's inspired me to learn Spanish. I'd love to see what he thinks about that. I'd love to talk chew the fat with him. I also think that would be a good vibe. Diana, Rihanna, Bad Bunny, Conan O'Brien. I think everyone would get along. It's quite. This is a fun
Yeah,
afters. I'm
yeah.
not going
Let's go
like
fun
serious.
afters.
I'm not going serious. It's like we're at an afters. I want it to just be like a great vibe. I want us to have so much to talk about that no one ever wants to leave. My fifth person, shit.
This last person could completely change the vibe of your entire fantasy afters.
I'm really thinking who would work with this group. Diana, Rihanna, Bad Bunny, and Conan O'Brien. Just bear with. You can cut.
No, I'm happy. Believe me, I've had this conversation multiple times in the afters, so I'm used to waiting on the fifth person.
I would probably say he is another white male American comedian, but I would say Robin Williams because I would love to meet Robin Williams.
The heart breaks, but yeah, 100%.
I would love to sit and chat with Robin Williams. Although I've literally read absolutely everything about him, and I think one of the things that people said about him was that when he was with more than one person, he would perform. But how amazing to
like
be
a once in a generation type.
Yeah.
Again, I think it speaks to the whole. You only see what people show, like the version that somebody's willing to show you of themselves. You don't get to see the full version of somebody, and that's an extreme example of how he put up this veil of happiness and joy. And I will not accept anybody saying a bad word about Robin Williams. I would shoot them down and fuck them out of the afters if they ever did.
Same. And actually, I've never heard anyone say, there was some stuff about like he was accused of copying jokes from people, but I've read so much about him because like The Birdcage and Mrs. Doubtfire and Good Will Hunting are, I think, like three of the best films ever made, and he's in all of them.
And Dead Poets Society as well has to be up there too.
Dead Poet Society is amazing. And yeah, I think like of what I've read, he as a person, he did so much to like help people. He went out of his way to kind of make people feel good. And there's the reason why he was in so many children's films, and it's because he had this like not children's films, but films that like I watched as a child. It's because he had this very childlike energy. He definitely had this like energy that I think makes you a great comedian, which is refusing to ever grow up, basically.
People look at Robin Williams and see a comedian and funny guy, and that's the first thought that comes to their head, and that's fine because that's the obvious, the low-hanging fruit, if you will. But if you look at the spectrum of, or the range, I should say, of performances that he was able to give, like Mrs. Doubtfire and Good Will Hunting, drastically or even Patch Adams, where it is funny and then it brings up more serious and dramatic subject matter, but like that range is just incredible. So you couldn't have picked a better fifth person. So I have to ask then, who are you putting on drinks? You can't ask Diana to do drinks.
Really, I was kind of gonna say Diana because
I think she'd free pour, to be fair.
I don't know how much everyone else drinks. I know that Conan O'Brien isn't like a huge drinker. I think Rihanna maybe drinks, like, but she loves to smoke the ganj. Bad Bunny maybe, but also I'd be on the drinks. To be honest, I would get my friend Jack there. Jack, my best friend, would be a great extra person to have there. He's amazing at making cocktails. He's the best vibe. Every single time I have anyone round to my house, I'm like, Jack, could you come and cook? And pretend that I'm a homemaker because I'm just not. So I'd have Jack there making sure that everyone's well fed and well watered, and he's so good. He makes such a good dirty martini, Jack. So
amazing. So this might be a difficult one for you because the couple of musicians in there. Who's in charge of the Bluetooth speaker or the aux cable?
Well, I'd want Rihanna and Bad Bunny to be performing live together. To be honest, that I would do anything for them to actually make a song together. Whenever I I do a Burns night dinner every year for Burns night, and Jack my friend always cooks, and I'm in charge of the music because I like being in control of what I can hear and like sound, like when there's lots of people. And this year it was very not Scottish, but I just had like Bad Bunny radio on for the whole night. And then by like 3 a.m, someone was like, "We've definitely already heard this song, Grace. Like we mix it up."
I've been there before.
Yeah, yeah.
In my group of friends, there's like the mother of the group, if you will, who's in charge of, quiet outside, neighbours next door. Who do you think that would be?
I think that would be, well, do you know what? Weirdly, maybe Conan O'Brien, because he seems like quite a sensible person. I think I'd love to think me and Rihanna are being like super loud. Do you know what I mean? Like talking shit. Maybe Diana's also being really loud, and maybe Conan O'Brien's like, "Oh, guys, he was a bit of a sort of geeky, teenager. Maybe he's like, guys, let's not piss off the neighbors." That's never me. I'm always the person that's being told to shut up.
Love it. So, one piece of tech that you'd ban from all afters?
Phones.
Oh.
Sorry. Speaking of technology, sorry, let me get that. Sorry about that.
No, that couldn't have been better timed. Comedic timing, come on.
That's the Deliveroo alcohol for the afters.
Perfect. Any world leaders that you would trust to be in charge of the music for the night?
No.
Fair. Done.
No. Is there anyone that I would trust? No.
No is a full answer.
There's not anyone right now that I would trust with a fucking bag of potatoes. There's not a world leader that I would give my shopping for a second.
Love that. And this one will really be helpful to my chief of staff because she has a habit of doing an Irish accent. But what's your ultimate ghosting strategy for getting out of a night?
Leave, you just go. Or say you're going to the toilet and then just go. Or I've at the moment got a good excuse, which is moving house. So I've been using that quite a lot. Really sorry, moving house. Like I'm going to be using that for about a month. And then a dog, get a dog. There's such a good excuse. You say, my dog's been alone at home for 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever. Make it up. Say my dog's been alone at home for a day. I've got to go. I wish we were at a place in society where we could just say, I'm going to go now.
Yep.
And that not be an issue. But we're all so scared of upsetting anyone and we're all such people pleasers. So, but I do think an Irish exit is the best way. Just bounce. Just walk out the door. Don't make eye contact with anyone. Book an Uber before you leave so that you don't have to awkwardly stand on the street and then someone else sees you and then you're out of there.
Yeah, love it. Just keep it, just go back to the traditions.
Yeah, exactly.
Last question on my side, Grace, is any books or audiobooks that you'd recommend? Let's broaden that out to podcasts.
Well, to be honest, speaking of Robin Williams, there's a book about him called Robin by David Itzkoff is his name. And it's such an amazing book. It inspired me so much. That's a great, it's not a memoir because it was written post Robin Williams dying. Another great memoir is actually Sonny Boy by Al Pacino. That I loved that so much. I love memoirs and like books about people. That's kind of my jam. I like listening to real stories or reading real stories, and I get so much inspiration from people who have done things that I want to do or even not, but just I get so much inspiration from people who've like done really cool things.
Grace, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here. Look, keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing it for the guys and the girls and standing your ground. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
If anybody would like to listen to Grace's podcast, it's Late to the Party with Grace Campbell. And thank you all so much for listening.